Hello everyone and welcome back to True Crime Mysteries. Today we have our September Crimes of the Month. In our Crimes of the Month series we cover updates from previous cases, notable crimes covered in the news, and crime-related things that happened that month. As always, your friendly reminder to give this video a like if you like the content and subscribe if you haven't already because I make more content like this. But with that being said, let's get into it. We're going to jump into updates first. Our first quick update is going to be the family in California that died tragically while on a hike. Jonathan Garish, Ellen Chung, and their 1-year-old daughter and their dog were found deceased on the trail in the Sierra National Forest back in August.
I've been here for 20 years and I've never seen a death-related case like this. You know, there's no obvious indicators of how it occurred. As well as, you know, you have two healthy adults, you have a healthy child, and what appears to be a healthy canine, all within a general same area, deceased. So that's what I'm saying. It's frustrating, and we're not going to rest. And our biggest mission is the safety, but also the family and bringing closure and being able to support them through this tragic time.
The autopsy results have come back inconclusive, but they were able to determine that toxic algae, carbon monoxide, or any weapons were not the cause of their deaths. They are now looking into the possibility that the family was struck by lightning, and they are still working to determine what happened. The investigation is still ongoing, and hopefully there will be answers soon in this tragic case.
We don't have any indicators of how the death occurred, so right now we're treating the coroner investigation as a homicide until we can, establish the cause. We have not found any old mine shafts near the area. There are some mine shafts, but we can't confirm if that's the cause yet.
Update number 2. Elizabeth Holmes' trial has begun. Last year I covered the Theranos / Elizabeth Holmes, shall we call it, shit show corporate scandal. Well, I said I would update if there's any updates, and we've had a couple days at trial. A brief summary of what is going on is that Holmes was the CEO and inventor of a company called Theranos, which she claimed to have created this device called the Edison that would diagnose hundreds of diseases, ailments, with the prick of a finger and a single drop of blood. There had been a lot of smoke and mirrors, and long story short, the device didn't work. It is important to keep reminding people that this didn't just affect rich investors. They did lose millions of dollars, but Holmes had accepted several government grants paid for by taxpayers. When she had had her contract with Walgreens, she took money from and gave false medical information to hundreds of people. Many investors of Theranos weren't the wealthy, ultra-rich. They were everyday, average people that were defrauded. Holmes is facing 20 years in prison for 10 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Ramesh Sunny Balwani was Holmes's boyfriend and president of Theranos and is facing similar charges, but they will be tried separately. They have both pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her trial is honestly not going that well for her, despite her legal team trying really hard to pin most of the fraud on Sunny Balwani. So far, the evidence is not in her favor. 600 pages of text messages show that Holmes knew she was in over her head, and there were even messages from Sunny of him trying to convince her to reel back some of the press. Holmes's legal team is trying to depict her to the jury as a naive businesswoman who came up short and had her company fail, though it didn't really fail as much it was shut down by the government. Her lawyer said in his opening statement, "By the time this trial is over, you will see that the villain the government just presented is actually a living, breathing human who did her very best each and every day, and she is innocent." This trial has a long way to go, as there are over 140 potential witnesses waiting to testify. If you guys are interested in a bigger deep dive in this trial, let me know. In our final update, R. Kelly has been found guilty of 8 counts of sex trafficking as well as racketeering. His crimes included using his fame and wealth to lure young female victims under the promise of helping their music careers. Many of them testified that they were underage when they were abused by Kelly. Kelly used his business enterprise to buy the silence of those critical of him. He also used employees to assist and enable him to abuse his victims. He was found to have bribed government workers to issue falsified documents. He was alleged to have kidnapped, drugged, and assaulted victims, both at his home and his studio. He kept multiple victims trapped at his home and also created videos of women doing degrading acts to ensure they stayed silent, threatening to release the videos and ruin their lives. His sentencing hearing won't be until May 4th, where he faces multiple life sentences. He also has a separate trial in Chicago for criminal charges related to the sexual exploitation of minors. R. Kelly's legal issues don't stop here. He also has a separate trial in Chicago for criminal charges related to sexual exploitation of minors. The lawyer representing all 6 victims in this trial, Gloria Allred, said in a statement, "Because of their courage and the outstanding work of federal agents and prosecutors, in this case, justice has been done." Allred added, "Let this be a message to all celebrities who also use their fame to prey on their fans and others who are unfortunate enough to come into contact with them. You're also likely to face serious consequences for your criminal conduct." Okay, and we are moving on to September news. This month, there was kind of a lot of stuff in the news, and I'm going to cover some of the stuff that stood out to me, but I want to mention I had planned on covering the Gabby Petito case when it was a missing persons investigation. But as many of you know, the case progressed very quickly, and it has been reported on extensively, so I won't be covering it here. My thoughts and prayers are going out to the Petito family as they deal with an incredibly difficult time. Okay, we are moving on to our first case. A Maryland judge takes his life moments before being arrested by the FBI. I am going to actually put a trigger warning on this case and probably the rest of the video, as this deals with SA of minors. On September 10th, the FBI executed an arrest warrant at the home of Jonathan Gray Newell in Henderson, Maryland. The 50-year-old Carolina County judge was on leave of absence following an investigation of him possessing illicit images of children. Newell was known to host fishing trips at his cabin. 2 15-year-old boys were at his cabin when they discovered a camera hidden in their bedroom. They told their parents, who reported it to the police. When initially confronted by investigators, Newell chewed up and swallowed a camera memory card. A search warrant was issued to obtain CT scans of Newell's abdomen and pelvis, where they were able to confirm that he had in fact chewed and swallowed a memory card. A search warrant for the property, as well as his cabin, boat and truck and office, also uncovered numerous digital devices and numerous videos of minor males showering. 9 victims reported that they had been in Newell's cabin or home, and they had reported showering there, but also that Newell would enter the bathroom, where he said he was coming in to check them for ticks. When FBI agents arrived to arrest Newell, he barricaded himself inside the home, and they heard a single gunshot come from within the home and entered by force, only to discover Newell dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Newell had been a judge since 2016, and then before that, he had been a top prosecutor in the area. Newell's wife had left last year, and the couple had 2 sons together. At this point in time, it is unclear how many years back some of this footage goes, or how many victims are involved at this time. My thoughts go out to them and their families during this horrible time. Alright, number 2. South Carolina lawyer Alex Murdaugh allegedly shot himself so his son could collect a $10 million life insurance policy. This is kind of a wild story that just seems like it's only just unraveling. On September 4th, a 911 call came in from Alex Murdaugh. He claimed that while he was changing a tire, a rogue shooter drove by and attempted to kill him. He was located on the old Salkehatchie Road by himself with a head injury. He was airlifted to the hospital and treated for a skull fracture. The bullet had grazed him and he survived the alleged attack. Alex Murdaugh was the son of Randolph Murdaugh, and the family was very prominent in the South Carolina legal circuit and heavily involved in local law. At the time of the attack, it sort of made sense to local law enforcement. 3 months prior, Alex Murdaugh's wife and oldest son had been murdered at their home. That case is still ongoing, and there isn't much released about it, but it seemed plausible that the family was still being targeted. However, authorities uncovered evidence to suggest that Alex had orchestrated the attack as a botched suicide plot. He had a $10 million life insurance policy, but it had a suicide exclusion, so he arranged for a man to kill him, but the shooter missed and he survived the attack. The shooter was identified as Curtis Edward Smith, and he confessed to law enforcement his involvement in the scheme. He was charged with assisted suicide, assault, and battery of a high aggravated nature, pointing and presenting a firearm, insurance fraud, conspiracy to insurance fraud, and distribution of methamphetamine, and possession of marijuana. The two allegedly knew each other because Smith was Murdaugh's drug dealer. Murdaugh said in a statement that he was resigning from his law firm and he would be entering rehab for opioid addiction. He apologized and said, "The murders of my wife and son have caused an incredibly difficult time in my life. I have made a lot of decisions that I truly regret." A few hours after his statement, his law firm announced that Murdaugh had siphoned money from the company and he hadn't resigned, he was fired. They didn't specify how much money was missing, but said that it likely hadn't started 3 months ago, and they believed it went back as far as 20 years and was a vast amount of money. Investigators are exploring the possibility that the murder of his wife and son may have been connected to money and drug problems, but the weirdness doesn't stop there. Murdaugh's son, the one that had been murdered, Paul, caused a boat crash that killed a young woman in 2019. As well, he was also involved in a hit-and-run death in 2015, and their housekeeper and nanny had died in what was called a freak accident at the Murdaugh home in 2018. In total, there are 6 criminal investigations related to Alex and Paul Murdaugh. This is a very strange investigation, and I'm interested to know the conclusion of all these cases will be. Let me know what you think about this one, and if you think I should do more of a deep dive. Number 3. An argument over a lawn tractor ends in murder. In Des Moines, Iowa, 2 neighbors were in a disagreement over the payment of a lawn tractor. Amber Burton and her boyfriend had sold their tractor to their neighbor, Neri Lopez Morales, but the 3 were having a disagreement over the payment of the tractor. On September 14th, Amber went over to Morales' home and repossessed the tractor while Morales wasn't at home. Later that evening, Morales was caught on surveillance going to Burton's home, and he shot her once in the chest with a shotgun. Police responded at 8:30 p.m. when another neighbor reported hearing screaming and a loud bang. When the police arrived, they found Amber deceased on her couch. Morales was arrested that evening and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. He is being held until his first court hearing at the Polk County Jail on a $1 million bond. And our final topic for the evening, a Texas woman kills Peeping Tom. This is kind of a short one, and I'm interested to know what your guys' stand on a case like this is. In Houston, Texas, a woman whose identity has been withheld was in her home alone at around 11 p.m. She said that she saw a man looking into her bedroom window. Terrified, she grabbed her rifle and fired several shots into the direction of the man through her wall. 1 bullet connected with the man, blasting through his chest. He died on the scene with extensive wounds from the rifle. At this point in time, no charges have been made, but the woman is cooperating with the police. The woman said that she shot the man in self-defense and did not know or recognize him. This case really makes me think of Israel Keyes and the Golden State Killer. They both started out as peeping toms, and their crimes quickly escalated to serial predators. Where I live, this isn't legal even when in self-defense. She would have been arrested and charged for murder. So it is interesting to see what you guys think about this one. Was the woman in the right, or do you think there could have been another option, or where do you stand? Well, that is going to be it for this video. As always, please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you've done all that and want to support me and the channel, we have channel membership as well as Patreon to get early access, members-only content, and more. We also have merch and other goodies in the description box, as well as links to all my socials. But until then, I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.